Welcome to another episode of Bright Headed Publishing Audiobook Book Club. I am your host, Kelly Morgan. Today I am speaking with a marketing strategist. She wrote a wonderful book called Day One, A Practical Guide to Launching Your First Business. And she's also a podcast host. Stop Sucking at Business is the name of the podcast. Her name is Megan Brame. And I was so happy to speak with Megan because I've interviewed many authors and we've talked about the publishing process and the editing process, but everybody seems to, get stuck on the marketing piece. So I thought, let me go out and find a marketing strategist that could maybe give us some ideas on the best ways and how to market the book. And she is a fellow author and newest member to the book club. I'm so excited to speak with her. She has a wealth of information. Welcome to the podcast, Marketing Strategist Megan Brame. Megan, thank you so much for being on the podcast and being the newest member to the book club. Welcome.
It is completely my pleasure. I am so excited to be here.
Well, I'm glad that you're excited. That makes me really happy. I love when people come on to the podcast and share their experience and their knowledge and in hopes that maybe we can pass it on and help somebody else. And so I think what you do is incredible. Your book, Day One, we're going to talk about that and helping those want to launch a business. And I think there's a lot of, like I said, puzzle pieces to making that happen and being successful in making that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And no pressure, but I hope I can help people.
No pressure. So let's talk about Megan, the author. And so you wrote this book, Day One. So how did this idea that you had, that's what it was, a spark, an idea, how did it catapult into a published book?
How much time do you have? I was an entrepreneur before this, and I was running a skincare and soap company, and it did very well. I called it an industry darling. It won 5 industry awards. I got my name in the New York Times for it. All of this really just amazing stuff, but I would not give up control of anything. I did the packaging, the shipping, the products, marketing, all of it. And I was just afraid to bring people in. And consequently, that business turned from a dream career into a job I hated. I hated to go to work every day. And it ended up being something that I just couldn't continue on doing. And I closed it and walked away. I could have sold it, but it was like a bad relationship. You want to be clean, you want to get away, you just want to start fresh. And I had to think about, okay, what do I want to be when I grow up now? I was running this company, and what else am I good at doing? It was really hard to figure that out. So I had this blog going for a time called Handmade Brooklyn, and it was kind of cataloging all these entrepreneurs that I was meeting around New York City when I lived there. And it had organically begun to evolve from that kind of blog into me talking about my own entrepreneurial experiences and the challenges that I had faced, the wins, the losses, more losses than wins. And I began to realize that was what I really love to do. Like, it really flowed naturally from me in a way of not even like a self-serving or egotistical way, but in a den mother, business mother kind of person, where I was just like, I want to help other people avoid the mistakes that I had done. And so I became a digital marketing strategist to help people learn how to create conversations with their customers and, what I say, create ride or die fans for life. But in the back of my head, I realized that I wasn't really addressing the 101 part of it. I wasn't talking about the steps that someone can take to go from, one day I would just really love to do this. Instead of that, I wanted someone to say, okay, day one, I'm going to start doing this. But I don't know how to do that. And that's where I started to think about, there's a lot of books out there that talk about this, but the ones that I have run into have not been actionable. They've been very philosophical or high level thinking. And that's not the kind of person that I am. I want someone to tell me what to do to make things successful and to, cut out all the fluff. And so that's where day one came from. I wanted to move people from one day to day one. And that was my goal. And it had it in my head for so long that I just felt like I can't move on and do anything else until I get this book out. And so that's what I did.
Did you self-publish your book?
I did, yes. Yeah, I started the traditional way and it just became really too cumbersome. I wanted it out. I wanted it out in the world. And so I went self-publish.
And so you said that you wanted it out in the world. So you created this book. You went through the publishing process, you self-published it. Then what did you do?
Oh, and then I had to market it. Well, I had to market it once it was in my head to get people excited about it. But I would say that the the writing became the easy part. The marketing of it was the much bigger mountain to climb.
And so what did you do? How do you market that book? Day one, let's do it. Let's market it. What do you do?
So I started a couple of different ways. I had done I worked on my email list, which was, the most VIP loyal people that I had available to me. And I asked them sincerely to help me promote it because these are the people that are most connected to me. That we have this sacred, for lack of a better phrase, because the coffee's worn off, relationship of they gave me their email address. And for me, I feel that's a big connection, a big permission. So I asked them to help me promote it. But in addition, I read a couple of books. I did some organic marketing with social media. I offered to a couple of people that were, the ones who were most interested. I asked them for reviews in exchange for free copies. And I tried to go with an influencer strategy, but in a more organic way. So just getting for lack of a better phrase, the lowest hanging fruit that was available to me, asking those people who were most loyal to help me get that out. And then it just kind of spread out from there to the ripple effect of then my social media followers, then people visiting the page. And I haven't started an advertising strategy with it though, but that's in my head. It's just one of the 56,000 things I have to do in addition to what I'm already doing.
Right. It's a lot. I mean, you have to be an entrepreneur, and the book is about launching your business, being an entrepreneur. But what you did to launch the book, you had to be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
So, you have all these strategies and ideas, and I like the name of the book, Day One, because that says a lot as opposed to one day, right? I think a lot of us are like, one day I'll do that when it doesn't seem as hard anymore.
Right.
But it's always gonna be there. So you might as well go ahead and tackle it. So let's talk about the book and strategies that you have learned that you put in the book to help somebody successfully launch their business. Because there's a lot of businesses that launch every year, right, that do not make it.
Yeah.
So what is the ideas behind your book and the strategies where people can be successful?
I think that the biggest strategy that I could offer is to learn how to run a business rather than a business baby, if that makes sense. Learn that you are not the end all be all of the business. It is from you which it has sprung, but you need people to help you with it. You need tools, employees or contractors or freelancers. You need ways to realize that there are so many moving parts to a business. You can't run it all. You can't juggle it all on your own. And nobody wins any awards for being the busiest person in the world. So when you're creating this business, you really have to think about it through a lens of what are the things that I need to do to grow the business And what are the other things that are still essential but don't need me to run them as much? And how can I still get those things solved? Once you have that kind of strategy set up, I don't want to say like doors open, but it becomes so much easier to focus on the goals you have ahead because you have so many less distractions of, oh, well, I got to create my social media posts, or, oh, I got to do the bookkeeping, or I got to do this or this. Instead, you're focusing on selling, marketing, getting the word out, growing the business, scaling the business, figuring out how to solve more problems for your customers, which then generates sales. And that's what the focus should be. That's what, as the highest on the food chain of the business, that's what you should be most focused on. So I guess that is a strategy that I push very hard in day one. In addition to thinking about, what are the implications for the different types of businesses? So sole prop versus LLC. And I can't give you a blanket statement on which is best because they change based on states and localities and things like that. But I just kind of explore the nitty-gritty parts that don't seem to be talked about a lot. Like, if you want to be a sole proprietor, here's what you can kind of expect. If you want to be an LLC, here's what you can kind of expect. And I included that in addition to thinking about the strategies of running the business, just because I wanted it to be as all-encompassing and actionable, if that makes sense, as possible. I wanted this to be a no-frills guide that just covered okay, you really want to start this business, A, B, C, D, E. We're going to go through this and cross all these things off the list as we go. And once you have all of these things crossed off on your list, you are going to be so much further ahead than someone that didn't.
And that's important when you're starting a business. And it sounds like the book would really apply to really whatever type of business you want to start. Or is this kind of like the infrastructure to start really any kind of business?
I would say so. I would say the only one that might not apply are ones that are sort of like franchises or MLMs or things like that, just because they have their own sort of structure. But for someone who is creating something from scratch, I would say that this is hopefully a definitive guide for them.
Does the book go through implementing these processes one by one? I mean, because sometimes, I don't know about other people, but I'm great at reading, but then actually implementing, doing is something else, right? And that takes a little bit more motivation, and you have to feel kind of comfortable with, I'm going to actually now do this. Does the book kind of go into those certain things that we need to do?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the key parts of writing the book, was making sure that I gave you actionable steps. Unfortunately, with implementation, I can show you the way, but you're the one that has to end up doing it, which that it can be, and I'm guilty of this too, way easier said than done. But I try and make it as lowest barrier of entry as possible to getting to where you need to be a successful entrepreneur.
Right. And so what do you think are some good qualities for an entrepreneur? I think there's sometimes you find people who think, yeah, I really want to be an entrepreneur, but they don't possess the whatever an entrepreneur needs. What would you say an entrepreneur needs to be successful?
That's such a good question. And there are so many answers to that, but the one that is in my head is you have to have like a Teddy Rooseveltian level of just blind trust that you know that this is going to work. Now, I don't mean that in a sense of you're ruining your marriage or you're not seeing your kids or things like that to run the business, but you have to be aware that there are going to be some really hard days. It's just part of the world, and especially the entrepreneurial world. And so when you have those bad days, you still have to have the ability to say, this sucks, but I know that this is the path for me. This is what I need to be doing because I can't do anything else. I have to be an entrepreneur because that's the person I am. And sometimes I think that sounds sort of Miss America-y or something. Just believe and it will happen. But I mean more like you have to understand that there's a more pragmatic approach than just believe. You do have to believe in yourself, but you also need to understand that it's not going to be easy, and having that ability to have faith in yourself and your goals is the thing that gets you through that.
Yeah, that's good advice. You know, I think for a lot of us, we don't take the entrepreneurial route because it's scary, right? Because now you're, kind of supporting yourself. You don't have the safety net or the illusion of a safety net because you're working in 9 to 5 and you're getting a paycheck. What you do now generates your paycheck, right? So I think it's scary. So I think you're right. Having that trust that it's going to work is like imperative. Because if you don't believe it, who else is going to?
Exactly. And when you get called out on that by people who mean well or don't mean well, of like, well, why should you be a life coach? You're an accountant. Why are you going this route? And to have that ability to say, I understand the criticisms, but that's not stopping me. And I have these reasons why I know that's not going to stop me. That's the thing that just keeps you going.
Yeah. Being an entrepreneur is work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
It is a lot of work. And so having a book like yours to kind of help, part the way, help you, guide you, navigate you through what can be incredibly challenging and overwhelming situations is really good. What advice can you give to somebody who is maybe thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, but they're not sure where to start? I mean, obviously you've got to have an idea, right? This is what I want to do, but where do you start? What's day one look like?
I feel like day one is, and this is sort of an oversimplification, so I apologize, but day one is about the mindset of understanding what you are as an entrepreneur. So a lot of the objections people will say about going into business for themselves is that it's not stable, that it's, it could ruin your life in a, personal, financial, emotional, those kind of ways. But the most successful entrepreneurs that I've met are the ones that know that, but also know that there are no promises anymore in the corporate world. There is no business that you are employed by that stands behind you 100%. I mean, especially COVID has shown us that there's no promise of a stable income anymore. And for you to be able to take control of that and say instead, I realize that this is a life where my income may be in flux in the beginning while I'm trying to figure out how to run this business and grow it, but it's really not that different from people who are employed for other people. It's just about a realization that when your day one comes, you're embracing that and you're saying, I know that I am meant for something that I am meant to create something that solves problems for other people. And none of the promises of yesteryear are a factor anymore because they're not a factor for anybody anymore. And so I accept that, and I'm going to use that to my advantage, and I'm going to use that as a way to push me forward.
Do you think social media and just technology has made becoming an entrepreneur easier, or has it flooded the market now with entrepreneurs everywhere you turn?
Both. I would say it has flooded the market, absolutely. But I think of social media and technology for entrepreneurs like a marathon, where everybody in the beginning is all crowded together. We're all starting at the same point. And the more further you go along, the more open it becomes and the less people you're competing against, the less people you're running around. So I don't worry about how easy it is to create a business. I think that is to an advantage because so many opportunities are happening, not only for entrepreneurs, but for customers of these entrepreneurs with these really cool ideas and these really effective solutions to our problems. So while it can feel saturated and overwhelming, and it can make some people feel like, what's the point of even getting started? I say it's much more exciting because the barrier of entries have been lowered. Anyone can start a business. It's just the people who keep going are the ones that are the successful ones.
I would agree. I think that technology has opened many, many doors for many people that maybe thought having a business was out of reach. But again, I think most people don't take that leap because of the fear of the finances. You know, how do you overcome that fear? That's nothing that I don't think that anybody can do for you. And it's just a question that I'm just putting out there. How do you overcome that fear to take that leap to become an entrepreneur?
That's an excellent question.
Walk away from your, like you said, stable. Yeah. It appears to be stable. It's an illusion.
Asterisk, yeah.
Right. How do you walk away from that stable 9 to 5?
I can't answer that. I wish I could. I can't answer that because it's different for everybody. It's based on, are you supporting a family? Are you single? Are you younger? Are you older? What do your finances look like already? Do you have savings? Do you not have savings? Are you paycheck to paycheck? I can't answer that because it's different for everybody. But I think that when you're able to say, I am going for this full stop and I'm not going to limit myself to a 8 to 5 job, I'm going to be this entrepreneur. I think that once you start making declarations like that, the wheels start turning and you start to look for ways to replace that income. There was a great book I read called Your Money or Your Life by Vicky something. I forget her name. I apologize. But she has this great thing in the book that talks about put together all of your finances or anything that brings you in money. Just group it all together. And then if that's a 9 to 5 job or an 8 to 5 job, look at how much it costs you to go to work and to be employed. So how much is gas? How much are your work clothes, your work lunches? How much time does it cost you? How much energy does it cost you, not only to drive to work or to be on public transportation or things, but the downtime that you need to decompress from your job. And you're going to realize that that income that you are being paid, so much of that goes to going back to work. And so when I had done that, I was a director of marketing and communications, and I had $75,000 income. I live in a really low cost of living area, so that was a really good salary for this place. But I thought, oh God, I have to replace $75,000 a year. After I did the math and realized it cost me $33 an hour to go to work. So almost half of my income was spent working, going to that job, decompressing, the kickboxing school that I went to hate punch all of the stress, all my work clothes, meetings and stress and my therapy bills, and all of that accounted for almost half of my take home. So rather than being beaten down by that, I realized that is so much easier to do. I don't have to earn $75,000 a year. I have to earn 36 or whatever it was. That is way easier for me to do as an entrepreneur than it is this mountain of $75,000. And I think that that's what people need to realize, that the safety of a 8 to 5, 9 to 5 job has a lot of caveats to it. And if you are able to list out those caveats and realize the effort and the toll that it takes to be that employee, jumping to entrepreneurship isn't as high of a hurdle as you think it is. Vicki Robin. That was Vicki Robin.
That's a good way to break it down. And I don't think most people think about it like that, because you don't. You just think, oh, I make X a year. Mm-hmm. If I go and start my own business, I need to make X a year or more.
Right.
To order to survive. How am I going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And then how much am I going to invest into this business?
Right.
What am I going to put into it so that it can evolve and become whatever it's going to be? My daughter is an entrepreneur, and I watch her have really great days, and I watch her have really bad days. But it all is worth it. I think she has more good than bad. Right. But it's a tough road. It can be very, very tough. And but she wants it. So that's where she's comfortable. Some people are not meant for the 8 to 5s.
Yeah. And some people are meant to be entrepreneurs too. I always advise people, don't force yourself into a world that you're not cut out to be. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Entrepreneurship is hard. And if you are better as a director of marketing, then go be the best director of marketing you can be. Don't think that you have to be an entrepreneur, and don't think you have to be an employee. It's different for everybody. And the more you accept who you are as a person and what would make you happier, it's just so much easier.
It is. And I think the bottom line is, the beauty of it is that you have the choice.
Yeah.
If you
absolutely.
have the choice, then that's where you start. And then decide what works for you. Right?
Agreed completely.
And then, you never know what your day one will look like.
It's true. But it's an exciting day.
It is an exciting day. Megan, do you have a website?
I do. Yeah. You can check out all of my information, my streams of consciousness at meganbrame.com.
Megan, thank you so much for being on the podcast and being the newest member to the book club. Do you know what this means?
I can't even imagine. Let me know.
But I'm going to tell you. This means that as a member of the book club, you are welcome to come back at any time and talk about whatever else you have going on. I don't know if there's another book in that entrepreneurial mind of yours. But whatever
I have many shiny objects in my head, don't worry.
But when you decide that you are ready to share whatever you have going on, book related or not, you are more than welcome to come back. That is what you get for being a member of the book club. That
is so generous of you. Thank you, Kelly. I really appreciate that.
You are very welcome. Thank you again. All her information, all Megan's information will be in the podcast description so that you can go check her out. The book is called Day One. And Megan, again, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Bright Headed Publishing Audiobook Book Club. I just wrapped up with marketing strategist Megan Brame. Megan is a powerhouse. She is a marketing guru, and she can come up with new and unique ways to take your book marketing to the next level. If this is someplace where you struggle, she is somebody that you definitely want to connect with. All her information is in the podcast description so that you can, connect with her and maybe, take your book to where you want it to be. Remember, you can connect with me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And then there's also a YouTube page as well. If you want to be on the podcast, you can email me at brightheadedpublishing@gmail.com. Next week, another author, a new member to the book club. But until next time, keep writing.